remember, my grandmother was very much into history, and although she was not an artist herself, she instilled in me an interest in art. So I started painting when I used to spend holidays with her. And then I didn't become less interested in art. I had other pressures, family pressures to do other things like at school. So, but I still kept going with art. And then after a short period of time of working in an office, I then decided to go to drama school to do design for the theatre, which I did when I was 25. So, and then since then I've done some theatre design. I've worked a lot with community arts projects, and the last couple of years I've started full-time painting again. I spent long summers with my grandparents, and my grandfather, who had been at the Battle of the Somme, told me once, when I was very young actually, at the time when, first of all, his brother had died in 1916 at the Somme, but also he was at the Somme, and with people from his village, who were in England known as pals. He was there with all his friends, and he lost his best friend, and he witnessed him being decapitated with a shell. And I think he had been traumatised by that for decades. It was 40 years ago when he told me. It was 40 years before when that had happened to him, and he was clearly still very, very troubled. I think partly by the loss, but also partly by, I guess, what you might call survivor guilt. So that's instilled an interest in the war, and this set of paintings are dedicated to him because he inspired it, as I wanted to memorialise him. There's so many things to say about them. Obviously the brutality, hence the title, The Realities of War, sort of a strong focus on what actually happened to people, not just in terms of going over the top on the trenches and running and shooting, but actually people with gross injuries, because it was the Iron War. It was the first time a war was able to wreak such havoc to the human body. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to say. But also, in using lots of the adverts from contemporary magazines, it points to me to the whole capitalist background to the war, because all of these things were still being sold, and sometimes you'll see on some of the paintings that it's like chocolate milk is being sold, or special corsets even for men to improve their figure. All at the time when the war was going on, people were being killed by their thousands each week. But also these things here, they show prosthetic, the dawn of prosthetic instruments for to replace lost limbs. There's also in that image over there, there's maybe we show this. There's devices here that were being sold to change the shape of people's faces, and that some of them involved mechanisms which would push the flesh of a person to change the shape of their nose. But also these companies also developed, because of the war, a direct result of the war, they were started to developing prosthetic faces. Because many people, although it's hard to believe, many people ended up looking like this underneath this mask. This was their reality when they went to sleep at night, when the mask came off. In this instance, the nose and the upper lip completely gone and impossible to rebuild, totally decimated. So they're a memorial to those men that were killed, but they're also a socio-political comment, if you like, on what was behind it. And also, because we witness so many wars now and horrific injuries and mistreatment of soldiers after war, they're also a comment on the futility of it all and the fact that it's a manufactured occurrence. War is manufactured by people who want to sell things. Anything from food to wheelchairs, you name it. Everything was needed for soldiers as much as it was needed on the home front. Yeah, I don't think things have really changed. In fact, although we now have a century after the dawn of psychotherapy, things have not moved on. People who are depicted in these paintings never had access to proper ongoing psychotherapy, or if they did, in some institutions, the people benefiting mostly were the people developing psychotherapy and drug treatment for that PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's horrifying, the fact that everything you can imagine was being set up by, well, mostly corporations really, with the assistance of governments. Governments were able to rubber stamp these occurrences and probably take part in the profits. I've just started, I have 5 paintings so far of a further 20, which is a different project but still to do with the war. It's a kind of a slightly softer subject. It's about a Serbian prisoner of war in World War I who was put into an Austrian prisoner of war camp where he was brutalised and then managed to find his way to a German camp where he became, because he was an actor, he became the leading lady of the prisoner of war camp theatre group, and the whole series of paintings are about just him, and I'm writing a short novel which will supplement those paintings, and that will be exhibited initially in California in 2017.